Good morning, and welcome to the 2018 Merle Jordan Conference, Spiritual Diversity and Psychotherapy. It's a special conference for us. It's a celebration and, in a way, a tribute and memorial to our dear colleague, professor, mentor, and friend, Merle Jordan, who passed away this spring. And we are so blessed to have so many of his family members, friends, former students, colleagues here in the room. That, in and of itself, is going to make this a very special couple of days. So, Albert and Jessie Danielson signed a deed of gift establishing the Danielson Endowment into Boston University. And in that deed of gift, they laid out the purpose of the Institute, which was clinical service, training, and research in the close connection between spirituality and religion, ministry, and mental health. That document has guided the decisions and the direction of the Institute since that time, and this conference and your presence here is a culmination of that purpose. As many of you who have passed through the Danielson Institute, either as trainees or as supervisors or in any other capacity, might know, we kind of make a big deal out of the space, and not really the physical space. Actually, not even primarily the physical space. We make a big deal out of the space within which healing and learning are supposed to happen. When Steve Sandage, one of our conveners, along with Brad Strawn from Fuller, joined us as research director, he introduced the term the relational ecology of the Danielson Institute, which is a good metaphor, a good symbol for the space. Well, the space of this conference is an expression of that same kind of approach. There's been tremendous logistical attention put into all of this by our wonderful administrative staff. There's been incredible planning and creative conceptualization of the topic and choices of each speaker who's here today. And there's what we hope will be the brand hospitality that the Danielson Institute tries to offer on behalf of Albert and Jessie Danielson and their family. So to get us started, we have a couple of wonderful opportunities. One is to receive the words of our Dean of the School of Theology, Mary Elizabeth Moore. After that, Merle's wife, Barbara, will offer a few words, and then his son, Chris, will offer a few words, after which Steve and Brad will introduce the conference proper. So with that, I'd like to invite Mary Elizabeth up and thank her for being here.
Thank you, George, and my first word is kudos to George Stavros and to all of you who have made the Danielson what it is. While many universities struggle to have a counseling center or a center of psychotherapy that thrives with whom they can work, Boston University has been blessed by the gift of the Danielson family and by the strong leadership that the Danielson has had over the years, and most notably the leadership it has right now. Thank you, George. This is a somber, joyful time of learning, relating, discovering. But as we begin, I'm so much aware that this conference is a tribute to a great man who is beloved by family, friends, students, and colleagues. And you'll hear from two of his family members, so my words are a bit more formal. He He served in the Danielson Institute the entire time he was here at Boston University. He was executive director for 10 years. He was also on the faculty of Boston University School of Theology for almost 30 years, 1969 to 1998, teaching in a field that was variously called pastoral theology, pastoral psychology, pastoral care and counseling, and then pastoral psychology again. He also led the School of Theology for 3 years as dean ad interim. Merle was named, toward the end of his time here, the second Albert V. Danielson Professor of Pastoral Care and Counseling. He also, carried that banner very well, and we are very fortunate that today this chair continues and Steve Sandage occupies that chair. I have known Merle through the people who were close to him and those who studied with him. When I meet alums in various parts of the United States and Korea and Africa, I hear stories of the spirit that Merle Jordan implanted in their lives, his inspiring them to establish a counseling center, and their memories of wise supervision are a right word spoken at the right time. They use words like wise, kind, gentle soul, and mentor who changed my life. I never had the personal privilege of knowing Merle, but I know him through his former students and his former colleagues who witnessed to his greatness through their lives. I also had the privilege of hearing Merle speak in the closing session of the first Merle Jordan Conference in 2012. His words then evoked wonder. He even named his thesis. My thesis is, all psychotherapy is really clinical theology, he said. And he went on to say, one's understanding of the depth and facets of another's life is best held in the context of the person's story and struggle, being seen as implicit and internal drama. A loaded phrase which reveals his respect for the deep stirrings in each individual and in every community. He closed that speech with stories, and he also closed with a firm conviction that love stands at the heart of the universe. However you in this conference construe spirituality and psychotherapy, and I hope your ideas will be many and varied. Wonder collects at the center. What Merle understood as wonder was the love that stands at the heart of the universe. May this conference be wonder-filled. Thank you. And now I have the privilege of introducing Barbara Jordan, the life partner for Merle and the beloved companion.
Good morning. It's such a joy to be here and to be asked by the executive director, George Stavros, Merle's friend, my friend, to talk about my husband, Merle Jordan, and to open this wonderful institute, which is a lasting legacy to my husband. For me, it's a privilege to build a bridge between those of you who have known Merle, those of you who have been blessed to know and love him, and to all who get a personal glimpse into what I call the unknowable and the knowable Merle. The man I want to share with you today was a man who loved deeply and fiercely. Merle was a person who, in many respects, was unknowable, introverted, quiet, and often tucked away into his life of prayer and daily devotions. Merle was a solitary man, a seeking man, a man surrounded by his prayer books, all tattered and torn and held together with tape, well used and well prayed in the privacy of self known only to God. And Merle, the man known to you and to many, that same man that I just described, was also a man who was extroverted, so quick to laugh, blessed with an incredible sense of humor. Merle's delightful sense of humor often shook the halls of our home, where we both had pastoral counseling offices. It was always mystifying to me why, when his clients would leave, they would be laughing, and mine would be crying. He was quick to tell a joke, quick to understand and forgive, and so quick to ask about you, about your life, your questions, your hopes and your dreams. He would always ask about your search for meaning and truth, with no expectations for himself, and so slow to accept praise. In fact, in a recent conversation with a man known to us for 30 years, revealed that he was surprised to learn that Merle was an ordained minister. That was because Merle typically asked about him, his health, his stories, his family. I often enjoyed teasing my husband, saying, "Where is your ego?" Merle would respond with a benign smile. I love and will always love the Merle who was a father, as well as a father figure and a friend and a mentor to many, for his generosity of spirit and his goodness of heart. A man who changed the lives with his message of radical love. Merle slipped away from us by increments over these last 5 years. And he went deeper and deeper into himself. Toward the end, he painfully recognized his most important loss due to a form of dementia. That loss, he acknowledged that he could no longer go down into his deeper self. That was so painful to hear. I do believe that God was there with him in that depth, the spiritual life that carried him throughout his life, unknown to us, known only to Merle and to his God. And I also trust that now there is a deep spiritual intimacy with Merle, with God, that Merle always believed in and always longed for.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for bringing those pieces of Merle into the room with us today. One of the paradoxes of the death of someone who is beloved is that it brings people together. And at Merle's wake, I had the paradoxical pleasure of meeting his sons, Chris and Ross. And as soon as we started talking, it just felt like home. It felt like that was the exact place for the three of us to be in that little conversation. So I'd like to introduce Chris, who is going to come up and offer a few reflections about Merle, and to ask you to greet him.
Thank you, George. First of all, I want to thank all of you for the honor of having this conference in my father's name and for coming here. I've seen many of you at his funeral and gotten to know you, and I've been quite impressed by the number of people who come up to me and say, "This is how your dad influenced my life. He helped me focus on where I should go in my career. He got me my first job. I took over his job at the Danielson Center, whatever. And I think Mary and Barbara have talked, about his career and his life at home. And Barbara, the love of his life, kind of focused him and his religion and everything. And I could tell you lots of stories about my dad that mine go more to playing baseball and going to World Series Dodgers games and card games. And if we beat my dad, we knew we always won fair and square because he would never let us win. It was just that, he's that kind of a guy. And you talked a little bit about his laughter. He had a great sense of humor, and I'd like to think I inherited that, much to my wife's chagrin. But I have to tell you a story. So my dad was a missionary in the Philippines, and the divinity school was across the street from the high school where I went to school. And the windows are always open in the Philippines because it's so hot. And my dad would be over across the street telling jokes or making people laugh, and he was so loud, the kids in my class would elbow me and make fun of me. Oh, your daddy again, he's laughing and everything. But he did have a great sense of humor. I really appreciate that part of him. I apologize if I'm a little jet lagged. I flew in yesterday from Hawaii, where I've lived for the last 15 years. So this is the first conference I've actually been to, and I'm quite impressed by the turnout here. I didn't expect so many people. My brother Ross here lives in Plymouth, so it's easier for him to get here. And my sister is a family doctor in Seattle, and she just took a new job, and she couldn't get away to come here. But she would have a few things to say if she could, I'm sure, too, right, Ross? Anyway. How many of you here have been to Hawaii? Raise your hand. That's quite a few. And so we don't say good morning or hi, we always say aloha. And aloha is a great word. You say aloha as a greeting, right? Instead of hello, you say aloha. Or you also say it as a goodbye, aloha, when you're going. And the word aloha has a lot of meaning to it. It's love and affection, compassion, mercy. And so you really want to have your heart filled with these emotions and to influence other people using that and fulfilling things. And the native Hawaiians, I was surprised to see this, and I want to get it right, so let me read this. So your heart should be so full it's overflowing with the ability to influence others around you with your spirit. And the deeper cultural significance, in Hawaii we have a huge mixture of cultures there, so we have the diversity. But the native Hawaiians, they look at aloha with the deeper spiritual significance. It means to be in the presence of the divinity, which is something I didn't know until I just read about recently. So in the spirit of aloha today, I hope you all get the most out of this conference and go away with that spirit that we Hawaiians hopefully have and share with everybody. So thank you for coming here today, and I'm looking forward. We have some great presenters. I've been reading their resumes, so it should be a great conference. All right, thank you.
So greetings, I'm Steve Sandage. I hold the Danielson Chair position that Merle held, and I'm Research Director at the Danielson Institute, and I'm very grateful for you all being here today. This conference is part of Merle's legacy. As a sports fan, I'm sure he would be excited the Yankees are in town too, and so the stars are really aligning today. This great conference and the playoffs. The idea for this conference from us at Danielson and my co-organizer Brad Strawn came from, in part, some of us are old enough to remember when it was really a very, very open question, are spirituality and religion actually relevant to psychotherapy? And at Danielson, we believe that question has been resolved. It is, and we're here to announce that. It seems like at this point, what we believe is really needed is to hold up some of the beautiful diversity of perspectives within our religious and spiritual traditions, and the clinical theorists and scholars who are coming at these issues of spirituality and religion in psychotherapy in diverse ways. The field of psychotherapy can be just as competitive as any other field, and we thought, wouldn't it be great to bring together thinkers from diverse perspectives, diverse traditions, who take spirituality and religion seriously, who are cognizant of their own traditions and how they've been shaped by traditions they've studied and lived, and can thoughtfully bring those together. And some of us who get to speak at conferences also know that often you slip in and slip out, and it's a busy kind of environment. And so we have the pleasure of having these folks with us, mostly for a couple of days, to listen to each other, to offer thoughtful questions to one another, to learn from one another. So this is going to be a rich opportunity, and I appreciate you being with us.